This was the family place right about here?
Right about here.
We're in Portsmouth, Virginia, with Black history scholar Cassandra Newby Alexander.
Jesse Brownlee owned 3 slaves.
Remember that name, Brownlee. Slaveholding was quite common here, says Newby Alexander.
In Virginia, about 50% of the population owned slaves.
Democratic Congresswoman Julia Brownlee grew up in Virginia.
The only African-American Black individuals that I knew were the women that worked in my house, who would clean and iron and cook some.
Brownlee's worldview has evolved dramatically since then. The self-described pragmatic progressive was recently informed that several generations ago, her forebears were slaveholders.
On the one hand, I wasn't too surprised. On the other hand, when they said your great-great-grandfather had 2 slaves and a child slave, that really hit me really hard. It hit me very, very hard.
Through public documents and family records, a Reuters examination discovered at least 100 members of the last sitting Congress had direct family ancestors who were slaveholders. More than a quarter of Republicans. 8% Democrats. So too, every living American president except Donald Trump.
When you learned that, did it surprise you?
Not at all. Power is something that's often inherited, and so is privilege. And those who owned enslaved people were privileged people.
Not privileged, the enslaved. Congressman Gregory Meeks has sought his family's past for years. Records are sparse or non-existent.
I want to know now, who was that person or people that was able to survive the horrific slave trade? How did they survive, being whipped and chained in slavery?
The connection to slavery seems more than an interesting historical footnote. Yet when contacted by Reuters for a response, 67 of the 100 congresspeople who are direct descendants of slaveholders had nothing to say, offered no reply.
It tells me that either they're ashamed or they don't care.
Would we be better off as a people, as an American people, if we better recognized the truth of our past?
Absolutely. Unequivocally. We have to keep teaching it and putting it in front of the American people.
Harry Smith, NBC News, Portsmouth, Virginia.
Politicians love to tell you about their personal stories, where they grew up, their first job in high school, what their parents did for a living. And sometimes they don't think their stories are good enough, so they embellish, like our friend Liz.
Being Native American has been part of my story, I guess, since the day I was born. I don't know any other way to describe it.
In the senator's genome, we did find 5 segments of Native American ancestry with very high confidence, where we believe the error rate is less than 1 in 1,000.
That's right. Liz Warren has 1/1,000th Indian blood in her. And after that test, she stopped digging into her family history. Unfortunately, investigators at Reuters did not. They did an investigation and found out Liz Warren's ancestors owned slaves. Liz Warren is more slave owner than she is Native American. Now, lucky for Liz, she's not alone. Reuters found out that more than 100 American politicians, including 5 living presidents, 2 Supreme Court justices, and 11 governors, are direct descendants of slave owners. Which is awkward because politicians, mostly from the left, love to tell us that America was built on the backs of slaves.
America was built on the backs of black people. People don't know that.
Slaves built the American economy. They made the monies that went from the rich landed South to the Wall Street banks.
The slaves built Monticello, the Capitol, the White House. This country would not exist without slaves.
No one minds taking advantage of the benefits that they got from slavery. Maybe you should give back some of your wealth. Maybe you should give back your grandfather's college degree. Maybe you should give back your great-great-grandfather's land that you were given.
Give back the land and the wealth, Lizzie. Wait a second. That report said 5 living presidents descended from slave owners. Even Joe Biden? Yes, even Joe Biden, which makes this whole thing a lot more uncomfortable.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
It's not just Joe. According to Reuters, President Joe Biden and every living former U.S. president, except Donald Trump, are the direct descendants of slaveholders. Jimmy Carter, W., Bill Clinton, and through his white mother's side, Barack Obama. Trump's ancestors came to America after slavery was abolished. And Obama's mother's family owned slaves. So my question is, will Barack Obama have to pay himself reparations?